I lost my first business at 27 years of age, and it was an awful, horrible feeling. And those feelings still come back to haunt me today. Despite going on and building bigger and better things and becoming ultimately a success, that feeling still haunts me. So I wanted to take you back to when I first started my first business, which I lost at 27 years of age. I was 24. And my occupation back then was semi-pro rugby, and it's what provided for my family, and it gave us a great lifestyle. And I remember walking around the pitch not feeling aligned with what I was doing. I didn't know that was the correct word for it then, but it just didn't feel right inside. And I came off the pitch and I quit playing rugby, and I said, I'm going to start my own business. And I did exactly that. Not worried, full of confidence, not worried about failure, no fear of failure, no fear of what could go wrong. I just did it. And that business was a great success for about 3 years. And then it slowly started to go out of business. And when it did go out of business, I didn't want to go out the front door. I felt embarrassed. I felt like I let my family down. I felt like I let myself down. I felt like an absolute failure. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, that was financially supporting us, and I had to do something fast to be able to support the family. And I'll never ever forget those feelings. And as I went on to build my next business, I've always built bigger, stronger because of those feelings. I've always gone that extra mile because I've never wanted to experience those feelings again. And despite that probably being the right thing, it's also taken me away from who I really am, because the person I really am, I'm that 24-year-old who had no fear of failure, where what's happened is I've built in, so I've had a fear of failure. So I've built bigger to keep myself away from those failing thoughts, from that, the thought of embarrassment by walking out your front door, people knowing that your business went bump and you failed, the fear of letting your family know that you're no longer in business, you failed. And that took a chunk away from me. It took a chunk of the confident me away from me. Don't get me wrong, I'm still confident, but I was not full of fear. Yeah, and when I built another business, I built it based on the fear of losing the other one and to making sure I didn't do the same again, which is what I needed to do. Yeah, but ultimately, it takes a chunk away from you because I went all in. I gave it my all. And I lost a piece of me inside that because of that fear of failing, running away from that failing. And don't get me wrong, it served me well. But you only get to realize this as you get older. Looking back, that experience of losing that first business, it took a piece of me with it. And that is a piece which I am fighting to get back. So here's what I've come to realize about losing that first business. It wasn't about losing the money or losing the time. It's about losing the belief, losing the belief that I could actually achieve anything, and losing the belief of zero fear of failure, which I guess the fear of failure, I don't know. It's freedom, but maybe it's naivety too. So maybe it's all a part of growing up. That's what life does to you, isn't it? We become more fearful as we have more life experiences. So maybe that's what it was. But that is exactly what it is. It's not a fear of money. It's not a fear of time. It's taken away that fear of the belief in myself that I can absolutely achieve anything. And I still believe I can achieve anything, but I always have in the back of my mind the experience of losing that business. And I guess it means I don't take things for granted anymore. And it's kind of taken away a little bit of free spirit Scott away. And maybe, like I said, free spirit Scott might have been naive, but free spirit Scott was very high risk, where now I will question everything I've got to do based on that experience, based off losing everything. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you know what, I've identified my issue of losing that business at 27 years of age, and I'm absolutely okay now. I can move on because I've identified it. I haven't. I've always got that thought in the back of my mind about what if things go wrong? Yeah, what is the backup plan if things go wrong? Yep, and that comes from that fear. But now I've identified it, I've loosened it up a bit, which I know it's there. So despite me not solving that issue, I can now move forward from that issue. And I see that, I wouldn't call it an issue, an experience where I've become wiser and I've become stronger. And looking back, even though it affects my belief system, yeah, it makes me a wiser business owner. It makes me question decisions, which I probably should question sometimes. It also doesn't make me as high risk. I loved being high risk, but high risk brings high rewards. High risk also brings, big losses. So it's made me balance out my decision making. So I guess looking back, the experience, despite it affecting my belief, is actually balanced out my thought pattern within my business. So tell me in the comment box below, is there a failure which you encountered years ago, which is still running the show in your life? Yeah, let me know in the comment box below. I try to answer every question. And remember, our failures are our learning curves. We become stronger, we become better. And despite, losing ourselves slightly in some of those failures, we become better business owners or better employees in your job. So, yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And this is The Drift, and I am Scott.